Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the biggest Man United fan channel in the land. This is the United Stand. I know what you're thinking. Where's Mark? Where's Beth? You are stuck with the ugly one this morning. I am Kev. Kev Army, Thursday nights, Sunday nights, and now Saturday mornings. I remember a time when I used to get in from a night out at this stage, but plenty of Manchester United news to get through. Ten Hag's future still very much up in the air, still unclear. Thomas Tuchel, Man United talks. Fabrizio Romano has put that one out, so we'll look into that. And Todibo, cut price deal, will certainly chew the bones off that one as well. Man United have discussed the possibility of Greg. Oh. Yep. Man United have discussed. Just give me 1 minute, Greg. Apologies for that. For some reason, my computer just went absolutely haywire. I was trying to get all the information back up for you, but let's start again. It is Kev Army. Great to see everybody in the chat. Everybody's having a right laugh at that. Few gremlins in the system for some reason, but this is your Saturday morning news. Like I just said, Thomas Tuchel linked with Manchester United. We're going to get a poll up and running for that one. Is that somebody who you would like to see possibly replace Ten Hag? It is obviously all unclear still. We don't know whether Ten Hag is going to be still in charge. So much uncertainty. Thank you everyone for staying with me in the chat. There's a lot of everybody laughing in that. I will remain my composure levels here. It's obviously a Saturday morning. I'm usually still awake. It takes me a couple of coffees to get going. But let's get into this then. Either or, Ten Hag or Tuchel, where do you sit on that? We've got the poll up and running, so let me know your thoughts on that. So if you could choose one or the other, who are you going to go with? But developments on that story have come from Fabrizio Romano. He tweeted out last night that Manchester United, let's see the actual tweet, let's have a look into that. So it said Manchester United discussed Thomas Tuchel internally this week. So it was a short and sweet one from the main man, Fabrizio Romano. But as I always say on the United Stand, there is certainly no smoke without fire. And on this one, again, let me know on the poll, because we're going to put Tuchel up against our current manager, Ten Hag. And at this moment in time, I mean, for God's sake, man, when you look at the names that are being bandied about, we've been through it so many times. I know as a viewer, you'll be looking and thinking it's Groundhog Day. And it does seem that way at the minute. Tuchel certainly seems to be the main one with the media that is coming out and certainly being pushed towards the kind of entrance door at Manchester United. Pochettino is the other one. We had Kieran McKenna, but obviously he signed a new deal at Ipswich. Thomas Frank as well. Now, I'm Gareth Southgate. I mean, come on, man. We are talking about best in class, and this best in class from INEOS is getting bandied about so much. Now, best in class, how do you put a Gareth Southgate and the words best in class into that same sentence? Because it doesn't make any sense at all. You know, best in class, you're looking, you know, in terms of, you know, the way that Kev would look at it. I mean, best in class is, you know, your Megan Foxes, your Michelle Keegans, you know, and they're best in class, you know, for Kev. Not like, I don't know, Vanessa Phelps or Gemma Collins. They're not best in class. And when you you're pitting or putting Ten Hag against these names like a Gareth Southgate. It's honestly, does it fill you with dread? Of course it does. You know, this is Manchester United, and again, I talk about best in class. These names don't fill you with, you know, you look at it, it's not great. It isn't great for Manchester United, and this is such a huge kind of development, especially for a Fabrizio Romano to be coming out and saying that United have internally held talks about Tuchel last week. It is huge, and Tuchel is probably the best of what I would say a bad bunch there. If we're going to throw Pochettino in, I mean, what's Pochettino done? You know, has he been sacked from his last 2 jobs, but all of a sudden, oh yeah, best in class. He's good enough for Manchester United. Do me a favour. Thomas Tuchel, again, hot and cold, but I would say the best of that bunch. And you've got like your Thomas Franks and then Gareth Southgate. My main concern with a Southgate is that he's in charge of England at the minute. He's got the pick of the best crop of English players that we've seen for a hell of a long time. And I still don't think he has an idea of what he's doing. Yeah, I'm hearing people saying, Kev, most successful manager for England in a certain amount of period. But what it breaks down to, all right, should they have won the World Cup? Should they have won the Euros? They should have with that group of players. Should they be the favourites to win the Euros this summer? They should be. Do you trust Gareth Southgate to deliver a trophy, to deliver the Euros for England? I don't see that. And that's the major issue at Manchester United. What is the point of swapping Erik Ten Hag, who, whether you like it or not, he's delivered 2 trophies in 2 years, and another FA Cup final last season that we were beaten in. So that's 3 finals in 2 years. And again, I'm not pushing my Erik Ten Hag stance on you. I know that a lot of the viewers out there will look and say, Ten Hag, it's run its course, it's time for change, we need to see a style of play and that. I get that. I'm with you to an extent, but my question I will always back is why? I don't get it. I really don't get it. And unless you've got somebody that can step in, who's an upgrade, and that's where I talk about an upgrade, then what's the point? Like I tweeted out last night, you know, it's like dumping Michelle Keegan. I'm swapping her with Vanessa Feltz. It's not an upgrade. It is not an upgrade. The Ten Hag rumour mill will continue. I think the last time I was on was it last Sunday evening, and I thought there would be developments throughout the week, and it hasn't come. And you can tell the journalists really don't have a clue what's going on. Everybody's up in the air. These shows, we will always respond and react to the news until there's actual, you know, concrete evidence and news to break. We are just speculating on what other people are reporting. And Ten Hag, I must say, towards the end of last season, I was 100% that Erik Ten Hag was going to get the bullet. I thought he was going to get the sacked. Not that I personally wanted that, but the way that INEOS come in, the new structure and that, I just thought that definitely, regardless of whether he won the FA Cup or not, before that final, I just thought that they would basically get Erik Ten Hag out and they'll want their own man, somebody new in. But this last week now, I must say I have changed my opinion so much. I have got, you know, the reverse light on, beep, beep. I'm backing right up because 2 weeks is a very long time in football. And when you think it's 2 weeks ago today that Manchester United lifted the FA Cup, I keep looking and people are speculating, saying that INEOS are taking the time with it. And obviously fan opinion must come into this as well, because big accounts like ourselves, we run polls on Erik Ten Hag all the time. And it does seem to be in favour of Erik Ten Hag staying. So at this moment in time, you've got a situation where INEOS will be looking towards these kind of things and thinking, what do the fans want, which is what we want. But the fact that they've left it 2 weeks, it's a hell of a long time, a very long time in football. 2 weeks is a long time. If they decided on the Saturday after the FA Cup final to get rid of Erik Ten Hag, you could have had a new manager in now for 2 weeks, and you can get a lot done in 2 weeks. 2 weeks in football is a hell of a long time. But to me, the fact, and yes, Erik Ten Hag is currently on holiday, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. How do we not know that Ten Hag has been given assurances, you know, and said, go and enjoy your holiday. You know, the hard work starts when you come back. And I always subscribe to that theory as well, that if INEOS come out and back him, the media will flip that round anyway. They'll certainly come out and say that it's the dreaded vote of confidence. But, I mean, the huge development for me is the fact that Fabrizio Romano is saying that Thomas Tuchel internally this week has been discussed. And the option, Tuchel would be that option. We'll close down that poll very quickly. Let me just see. So Ten Hag, and there we go. We talk about a poll there and fan opinion. So that's 2.8k were active on that poll, and Ten Hag 87%. So we put up Erik Ten Hag against the Thomas Tuchel. 12% have gone with Thomas Tuchel. 87% have gone with Erik Ten Hag. And again, this isn't clear cut. This isn't the whole entire fan base. But I speak to a lot of fans when I'm out and about, down the pub, Trafford Centre, wherever it'll be. And this question will always arise. It seems to be the burning issue. Would you keep Erik Ten Hag? And fair play to you. I mean, that is 87% of the vote has gone with Ten Hag over Tuchel. And that is the main news. I've got a couple of super chats that I will clear out the way. We've got Tony Cox, member for 44 months, hell of a long time, says, this is worse than EastEnders. It's going on and on. I'm getting a bit fed up now. INEOS out. Don't want the Muppet Southgate. Doing a good job, Kev. Thank you very much for... We had a bit of a shaky start, you know, gremlins in the system at the start, but I'm into my flow now. Tony Cox, thank you very much for that. And Jaden says, is Erik Ten Hag best in class, Kev? That's a great question, Jaden. The issue is there. I'm not saying he's best in class. What I'm trying to say is, what's the option? Now, what we've just done here on the United Stand, on the morning show, is actually pick out Tuchel, who I would say is the best in class out of the options available. If you're going to throw Pochettino in, if you're going to throw your Southgates in, whoever. So out of them three, we've just pitted what we would say arguably is the best or the strongest candidate, the one that's won trophies, has been successful. We've just pitted him against Erik Ten Hag, and 87% of you lot have actually gone down the line of saying that you would prefer Erik Ten Hag to stay than a Tuchel to come in. So in that sense, he's better than Tuchel. I'm not saying he's best in class, and this is where it gets really, really, you get bogged down, because there isn't a standout candidate out there. You know, you're not going to get, for one moment, an Ancelotti. You know, Jurgen Klopp's not going to rock up. Guardiola's not going to leave City to come to United. You're talking about elite managers in that sense, then yeah, you talk about best in class. They're the kind of managers that you would want at your club. Maybe not a Jurgen Klopp with the old Scouse ties to Liverpool. But yeah, it's a good question. Is he best in class? He's the best option at Manchester United at this minute. And if you want to go down the Tuchel route, we know he's a bit of a journeyman. So it will be rinse and repeat if Tuchel comes to United. I can't foresee for 1 minute that a Thomas Tuchel is going to stay at Man United and for 5-10 years, like a Guardiola, like a Klopp has done. It could prove me wrong. You know, if all this does go through and INEOS decide to, you know, make that call, then that's something they have got to do. But at the end of the day, INEOS will have to live and die by this decision, because I think they will piss off a lot of United fans if they sack Erik Ten Hag. I don't see it being similar to when Louis van Gaal left United. Yes, it seemed harsh to be sacked on the day of the FA Cup final, but the fact now that we're 2 weeks on from that Cup final win, and we are none the wiser, no clearer. You've got the media literally trying to guess from day to day. They are going in out, shake it all about. It's Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out. And it's a lot of guesswork going on at this moment in time. The one thing you can say about INEOS at this moment in time, and if this is going to be the way that Manchester United is run, and we talk about leaks, and I don't mean the one from the roof or the dressing, I'm talking about dressing room leaks, and the fact that so much stuff has come out at Manchester United. Another way of looking at this could be possibly, is this the new way that United are going to deal with things? Has Sir Jim Ratcliffe looked at it and thought, right, what we need to do now is keep everything in-house, and then when we've got news, we'll let the world know. And it's a very difficult thing to do, but United, like I say, the leaks and everything, it's been an absolute disaster. And it's not the sign of a happy club. It's not the sign of way things should be done. But it's a heart back to the kind of old school days, isn't it? You know, where even on the transfer front of things, where bang, your business is done, it's announced, this is what top clubs do. Whereas in the past, United, somehow it gets leaked we're after a player, then another club comes in, they take him. So maybe INEOS are kind of looking at this and thinking, looking at the past regime, do you know what? Let's try and keep things under wrap. And that would certainly be a good way to go. Big shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you very much for joining me on this fine Saturday morning. But on the other kind of quotes that are coming out to do with the manager, we've got INEOS have said that Gareth Southgate is top of the list of potential replacements. He's still highly thought of. Again, that's coming in from the MEN. It's a lot of guesswork, because in the same kind of sentences, then you've got the same media outlets that are saying Tuchel is the main one, Southgate's the main one. So who do you believe? There's... let's just have a look. We've actually got something just coming through from C. Beasley from the Echo. This is to do with Jarrad Branthwaite, which it says MUFC chiefs are now expecting a deal for Branthwaite to be done by the 30th of June, with Everton attempting to stick their 75 million price tag. So this is a little bit of breaking news here on the United Stand. This was actually something I wanted to get into a little bit later on, but we'll roll with this. This is how we work. It's fast-paced here on the United Stand. The one thing I was actually going to say, that is an interesting development. I did actually have down that Branthwaite not being in the England squad could actually be a really good thing for United, because if there's one thing we all know, is that a player going away with, especially when you pay this kind of English tax on a player, and we've seen it so many times with so many players, you seem to add on about 15, 20 million just for the fact that they are English. Jarrad Branthwaite, he does seem to be the top target for Manchester United, and this is one that I would, the road that I would be going down. I'd absolutely be thrilled to see a Branthwaite. I just think he ticks so many boxes. 21 years old, you look at the way that he developed in a struggling Everton team. You know, to a certain extent last season, Everton did struggle. And you look at the performances against top teams, that's how you sometimes gauge a top player. And Branthwaite ticks the boxes, English, 21 years old. This is a player that could be at Manchester United for minimum 10 years. And people will go, oh, 70 million, it's a lot of money. You have to look at this as an investment. You know, big teams go out and make these calls. This is, you look at a Casemiro, you know, we've paid around that for a Casemiro. We paid it for a Sancho. When you factor everything in, this is a deal that's there to be done. And when you look at the noises around the Branthwaite kind of camp, Old Trafford would be an ideal destination for him. He's performed under Dyche this season. He's kind of in that John Stones kind of mould. And when you look at Manchester City paying a 50 million fee at that time, people thought 50 million for John Stones was very, very expensive. Branthwaite for 70, yes, it looks like a hell of a lot of money, but you have to look at the investment, the long-term investment. Rio Ferdinand at the time when Manchester United signed him, it was a mega fee, you know, up near 30 million. But this is going back years ago. People looked at that and thought, wow, this is a lot of money. But when you get 10 years service out of a player and you break that down and you look at the success has to be built on the back and the spine of that team. And when you've got a Raphael Varane, an absolute Rolls Royce of a defender, exiting the club. You know, he had his swan song a couple of weeks ago at Wembley. He departs Manchester United. What a great replacement to be bringing in. And it's that signal, it's that statement of intent to be bringing in a player with the age bracket. That's the main thing, the age bracket. This is not, you know, a 29, 30-year-old defender that's got a big reputation that we're bringing in. To an extent like the Varane situation, where we knew it was never going to be long-term. And so many players we've signed that have you know, the better days have been behind him. Whereas a Branthwaite, it can only get better and better and better. And at United, like I say, the fact that he's not in the England squad, I think it was a huge surprise. You speak to any Everton fans and they will tell you very, very much differently because they watch this player every single week. And for some reason, Southgate has decided not to take him. He's gone with a dunk. You know, he's decided on his setup. But the one main thing for me of Branthwaite not being in the England squad from a United perspective is the fact that if he had gone to the Euros and ripped it up, if England had a really, really successful Euros, is the fact that you probably could have added another 20 million on to this reported £70 million fee. And United would have got caught out with that. They might have refused to pay it, and then you miss out on a player like that, basically because, and then other teams will become involved. They'll be looking and thinking Branthwaite, he's the main man. Could have, you know, a Man City raid or Liverpool. Top teams will be after him. But there is an opportunity here, and like I say, the news coming in this morning is from C. Beasley Echo, is that they want to stick by the £75 million price tag, and they want it to be done by the 30th of June. So what are we, the 8th of June now? So we're talking the end of the month. The fact that he isn't going to the Euros as well, from a kind of Manchester United perspective, is the fact that United could now get this deal done. If it had gone to the Euros, it becomes a bit of an issue. Yes, you can do things over a telephone or whatever, but if Branthwaite had gone to the Euros, he would have been focused on the Euros. He probably would have told his agent, I don't want to hear any noises. I'm focused on England, focused on the Euros. But the fact that he's not going now, that there is a deal to be done. Let me know in the chat as well. You know, Branthwaite, is that deal too expensive? Again, it depends on outgoings as well. We know FFP, we know how this is going to work. United do have assets in that squad. We've heard most recently over the last couple of days on the United stand yesterday, the kind of Mason Greenwood rumours that he could potentially be leaving. You know, that is pure profit going into Manchester United. There are other players in this squad. There's so many huge decisions, and that's why I would like Erik Ten Hag to oversee this. How many times have we talked about Deadwood? You know, it won't happen over one transfer window. So many people are so quick to jump on this. And Erik Ten Hag, he should be doing this, he should be doing that. We all agreed ages ago when Ten Hag took the job that there's loads of Deadwood. That doesn't happen over one summer. You can't get rid of 15 players and bring in 15 players. It's a time issue. And the way that he has to build, that's something, you know, that will come with time. But if he doesn't, and INEOS decide to kind of pull the trigger on Ten Hag, sounds harsh that, but that's the world we live in, then he won't have that opportunity. And the next manager that comes in, I talk about rinse and repeat, the next, a Tuchel comes in, he might have his own ideas, he might come in. You know, he might say, bring in a Jadon Sancho, then he might look at the back, who knows? He might even look and think, I don't like Martinez, I want to bring in my own player. And then the cycle continues and continues. We've been here before. That's the reason I would like to give this manager time. But on Branthwaite, absolute no-brainer. People will talk about the fee and say that is expensive. Some super chats to clear out here. Willoughby Free says, I'm frustrated. This debacle is pissing me off. A man after, or a woman after my own heart, don't even know whether you're a man or a woman, but yes, it is Saturday morning. Who's not frustrated? The one thing we want at this moment in time is clarity. And like I say, behind the scenes, we don't know whether, Erik Ten Hag has been kind of told, get the sombrero on, the snorkel, the flip-flops, head over to wherever you're going on holiday, enjoy yourself, get a few beers down you, we'll see you when you get back. But from a United perspective at this moment in time, we certainly want clarity. Fabrizio Romano throwing the Tuchel thing in, it's all stacking up at this moment in time. And I do think that even at this point in time, INEOS, they've got such a huge call to make because this is on them. They're 25% of the club. They're coming in. If they get this decision wrong, it could be catastrophic. It's easy enough for me to say. For United and for the future, this could set us back. If they get this horribly wrong, this could set us back another 5 to 10 years' time. And you talk about United, when will United possibly challenge for another Premier League title? You think if they get it right, we might be back in the mix. It's going to take 4 or 5 years at least. You need good transfer windows, the structure. Everybody needs to be singing from the same hymn sheet. But in that sense, it's going to take time. Philip Wilson says, would Emery have been the best candidate pre-contract? Emery would have been a good shout. I don't think anybody could have foreseen how Villa were going to kind of play under him. And it's a good argument, that, Philip, because people will look to what Emery's done in a short space of time, the money, the recruitment. Again, he is working under a structure at Villa that we do not have. And you can look at it and say, is it new manager bounce? The big one for Villa for next season will be, can Emery keep them levels? And he is a top draw manager. I'm actually very surprised that when we talk about the manager candidates, that he very rarely gets mentioned. You look at De Zerbi, he's always in there straight away. He's always thrown in the mix. You get the usual kind of suspects, but yeah, if United are looking at it, I wouldn't be opposed to, if they have made the decision and they're going to get rid of a Ten Hag, then Emery, for me, would have to be in that mix of candidates. If you're going to do that, you have to be bringing in the best managers. He has done it in the Premier League last season. Recruitment was absolutely spot on. Villa, the levels rose. You can see an identity, a style of play. So, yeah, that would be a good shout, that, Philip. Good super chat. Alan Casey says, Branthwaite, 70 million, yeah, plus free signing. I will get into the Todibo thing. I did mention it at the start. Obviously, the managerial, the side of things, I think he's going to kind of hug the United stand until we get clarity on it, because it is just such a huge debate to be had. And like I say, INEOS have to get this call right, because this is on them. And if they do decide to get rid of Ten Hag, there will be a lot of United fans like me that I'll sit back and I'll say, right, all right, but this is on you. You have made this call. Whoever comes in, if they did come in and replace an Erik Ten Hag, of course I'll get behind it. In 2013 on the pitch when Sir Alex Ferguson addressed the fans at Old Trafford and said, your job now is to get behind your new manager. Good impression, that, wasn't it? But obviously we knew that David Moyes was coming in, and that was one of the most underwhelming feelings as a supporter, to be so scared of thinking, how are we going from Sir Alex Ferguson to David Moyes? And that same kind of thing applies now. I'm not saying it's the same levels. I'm just saying that David Moyes was never, ever going to be an upgrade, because Sir Alex Ferguson, the greatest manager of all time. But there was still managers out there at that time that United could have brought in when we talk about best in class. A Mourinho or somebody like that, at that stage, could have steadied the ship. We could have had continued success to build on, start rebuilding that ageing team. But we got David Moyes. And the rest, they say, is history. Alan Casey, I've read that one. Salim Cass in with a super chat. Absolutely nothing to say, but much appreciated. Salim Cass says he's not experienced and renowned enough. Risky. Is that on Branthwaite, is it? He's not experienced. Listen, he's had a good season. A very good season in an Everton team that really, really did struggle. And the sign of a good player is somebody that stands out in a team that is kind of struggling. And it's something, again, that Sir Alex Ferguson used to always say. He used to players that stood out against Manchester United on the opposition kind of side. They're the players that Manchester United tended to kind of chase. Dwight York used to always play well against United. And Ferguson always said, you know, he causes problems. So if you can't beat him, join us. So United have done that a lot of times. Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously, a prime example. When United played a friendly against a Sporting Lisbon, and you had the likes of John O'Shea and Wes Brown coming off the pitch at half-time and saying, this lad is the real deal. And United didn't mess about then as well. We need to get back to them good old days. But let's get into another story that is making the news this morning. If you're just surfacing, getting a cup of coffee, a slice of toast. But it is on Todibo. And it's a surprising one, this, I must say, when I was reading through it this morning. But it does say that Manchester United's long-term defensive target, Jean-Clair Todibo, could be available for as little as £21 million. 21 million. You know, in today's market, wow, in what could prove one of the bargains of the transfer window. And you have to let it sink in for a minute. Obviously, you've got Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the ties to Nice, and you've got a player here, you know, available for 21 million. It does seem almost too good to be true. But this is, again, we're looking for defensive reinforcements. I mentioned earlier that Raphael Varane is obviously, he's gone now from Manchester United, but you need somebody to partner with, even if you brought a Branthwaite in as well. Todibo, 21 million in an area that we are looking to strengthen. It doesn't seem long ago that we played West Ham. What was it, over the Christmas period? And that day we started Johnny Evans and Kambwala at centre-back. And, you know, other teams don't do this. And that's no disrespect to Johnny Evans. I'm just trying to say in terms of we had to kind of fast-track Kambwala into the team at that stage because there was nobody else available because of the injuries. So we certainly need to build from the back. 21 million. L'Equipe, the French newspaper, are reporting that the 24-year-old centre-back, he's got 3 years remaining on his current deal with Nice, but he'll be available for a fee worth 25 million euro, which is roughly, in today's kind of market, 21 million pounds. And that's a figure that is far below what had been reported previously. I think we spoke about it on here before. We've been looking at roughly 40, 50 million. So all of a sudden, you kind of half that fee, and at 21 million, I mean, listen, I would be very, very surprised if nobody else was interested. But interestingly, and I'm just reading off this, obviously Nice are owned by Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his INEOS sport team. So that does that come into play? Because we do hear a lot about this joint club ownership. We've heard recently that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is, you know, actively looking to sell Nice because you do have a kind of conflict of interest when you've got your fingers in so many pies, and Manchester United and Nice. But if there is a deal to be done here, and you think of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's kind of ties to Nice, then surely you would think that Manchester United would be at the forefront of this conversation, at the front of the queue, if Sir Jim can push this. And anything that is going to better Manchester United, make them stronger, you Sir Jim Ratcliffe would surely be actively looking at this and pushing that player towards United. And it is a strange one when you look at that and think, how does this work? Because it's almost like Sir Jim Ratcliffe doing Manchester United a huge kind of favour, but for himself. Todibo's one that will not go away. We've actively spoke about it so many times, but a 24-year-old, I talk about ticking the boxes, very, very strong, great athlete, somebody that's very, very good on the ball. And when you're losing that in Varane, we've seen that in the FA Cup final. I mean, Varane and Martinez, to an extent, clearly not fully match fit, but yet they went out there and did the business in the FA Cup final. They give their all, but it's the fact of being able to bring that ball out from the back. We talk about Man United, you know, what are we, second behind Sheffield United for the most sort of shots conceded. And yes, there's an element that looks at the kind of midfield role. Where's that protection in front of the back four? But when you've got two players, I mean, let's just say, for instance, it was a kind of Todibo, Martinez, or a Branthwaite. You're talking about three players there that are very, very comfortable bringing the ball out from the back. And yeah, Todibo at £21 million, it's... That, to me, £21 million for a footballer in this day and age, when you look at what Manchester United have spent over the years, it's absolutely peanuts. And it does sound crazy that a £21 million fee is talked about so flippantly like that. But when you see what United have spent over the years on certain players that are still in this squad now, that is an absolute no-brainer. That is being in Aldi, in, you know, the rooting around in that middle section aisle and then picking out Todibo for 21 million. You're not putting it back in because, you know, like Alan behind you, he's got his eye on it as well. So he's going to root in and say, I'll have a bit of Todibo for £21 million. But you say, no, Alan, you know, I'm having this one. So that is an absolute no-brainer. 24 years old, ticks boxes, and fills a void that has been left by the departing Raphael Varane. So that would be an absolute quality signing. I mean, in terms of signings, players will continue to be linked. But the big one, obviously, the breaking news earlier on Branthwaite is if you are just joining me now, that £75 million Everton apparently want to get this deal done by the end of June. So we are starting to see things. The Euros will hamper certain news because you'll have players that are at the Euros that won't want to do anything until after the Euros is done. But in terms of the Branthwaite thing, like I said earlier, the fact that he's not at the Euros means that United now, if they are working behind the scenes, that they've got not a free hit, but they can certainly get a deal done now that Branthwaite isn't going to the Euros. Let's just make sure. Yeah. Thank you very much for everybody in the chat. It's great to see so many of you up so early on a Saturday morning. I'm not used to this myself. But, I mean, another thing I did want to touch on, I was mentioning England before. Kobbie Mainoo, I mean, obviously we'll keep it United-based there because it's the United stand, but absolutely, the way the journalists attacked Kobbie Mainoo, and I say attacked, it's one of the reasons, from a United perspective, that I didn't want Kobbie Mainoo to actually go to the Euros. And this sounds absolutely wild for me to say that because he thoroughly deserves to go. He's been absolutely sensational for United, but it just shows you Erik Ten Hag at the end of the cup final was very, very defensive of his younger stars, and in particular at Kobbie Mainoo, when he's kind of shouted at this reporter and he said, you know, you lot are so quick to build up these players, you know, you will knock them down. Kobbie Mainoo was your prime candidate for that kind of shithousery last night. This is a player that I thought he was England's best player easily last night, but yeah, at half-time, you've got like, I think it was Jason Burr or someone tweeting out at half-time that Kobbie Mainoo was at fault for Iceland's goal, and can he play the number 6 role? Is this a big debate now going into the Euros? Is he ready for it? And I just think I've seen it so so many times that Man United players are scapegoated, especially on England duty. You can go all the way back to the 98 World Cup. You've got your David Beckham, there's Simone kind of thing. We have had it so many times. We've had it with Phil Neville, Gary Neville, Wayne Rooney, and they just love to absolutely scapegoat, especially these younger players. And Kobbie Mainoo strikes me as a player he's very much ahead of his years. He seems very mature, so I don't think he will take that as any kind of criticism. But can anybody please explain to me, especially the journalists at half-time last night that felt the need to be like going all in on Kobbie Mainoo, who was England's best player last night. Even when he played against Belgium, he was easily England's best player, man of the match performance. This is like a generational talent. I'm so blessed that he's a Manchester United player. Yet, you will get the media straight away, and just wait for it. You know, God forbid, and I hope he doesn't, but any mistakes at that Euros, the younger lads, the media will be straight on them. And they're quick enough, like Erik Ten Hag said, to build up these players. You know, when Gareth Southgate didn't include him in his provisional kind of England squad going back before, what was it, the United-Liverpool FA Cup game, we were surprised. I was on the United stand saying, how has Kobbie Mainoo not got into that squad? And me being kind of club over country, I was like, well, do you know what? You're the one that's missing out, Gareth Southgate, our potential, you know, new manager at Manchester United. Yet, he was at that match when Man United beat Liverpool in the FA Cup, and very, very quickly, it was only a day or so after, calls up Kobbie Mainoo. And that, for me, I think Gareth Southgate seeing Kobbie Mainoo in the actual flesh probably changed his opinion. He must have thought, shit, I've made a right mistake here. You know, I need to get this lad into the squad. And Mainoo's ready for it. You know, he is, what is he? He's actually the only teenager in that England squad that's going to be travelling to the Euros. So the last thing he needs is journalists coming out with complete and utter horseshit. You know, this is a lad that should be rightly built up, and there shouldn't be a debate. You know, that was an international friendly last night. Yet this anti-United agenda will always surface, and especially when it comes to England. I've just explained, it's happened so many times. David Beckham, Phil Neville, Gary Neville, you know, even to an extent Paul Scholes, how he was ever played on the left-hand side for England, always beggars belief, just to shoehorn him kind of in at the team. One of the best players I've ever seen in my lifetime. Yet, you know, at that stage, we could not get him in to the team. But I'm just going to check the chat. We have got Trey Warren is in there, says, do you think we could play Martinez at left back since Branthwaite is a left-sided centre back? When you say left back, you mean left back as in Luke Shaw's position, which, thank you very much for that, Trey. Thank you for your input. It's a possibility. The left back role, though, what I would say is, the way that football's changed so much, Trey, you're talking about left and right backs. It's not your old school kind of Dennis Irwin, Paul Parker, where, you know, you got up to a certain part of the field and then it was up to your Ryan Giggs and your Kanchelskis to carry on the attack. In theory, the modern day, they're wing backs, aren't they? They're not really even left and right backs. That's why when Luke Shaw is fully fit, his overlapping runs, you know, these kind of left and right backs, wing backs, play a lot of their football in the final third. You know, they're able to get up and down. Obviously, Dalot, who I think has been United's player of the season, certainly most improved player at Manchester United. Testament to him, because he is able to do that. And there was a major question over the likes of a Wan-Bissaka and a Dalot at that stage. Who's United's best right back? At that moment, at this moment in time, Diego Dalot has won that hands down. You know, if that's a fist fight, Dalot has floored Wan-Bissaka, and I have taken your place in this team. Wan-Bissaka is clearly fighting to stay at Manchester United, and we have to see if he's up for the fight. Yes, he can do a job on the left-hand side, but the left-hand side now becomes a major issue because of Luke Shaw's injury problems. a player of that age now. He's coming into the latter stages of his career. Are these the kind of niggly injuries now that creep in that just will not go away? And I was of the kind of opinion towards the end of last season that addressing the kind of holding midfield role at Manchester United was going to be major surgery. But there's so many headaches. So many headaches in this squad. You talk about the central midfield role. All right, let's put that one on the back burner, because at left back, we've got Malacia. I know, yeah, I'm thinking, who's he as well? Because where's Malacia been? You've got Malacia missing. You've got Luke Shaw, who is clearly injury prone now, and you're going to have to manage his minutes. The left back becomes the main priority of this team. Then you need a centre back, because you're not going into a season. It remains to be seen whether a Lindelof is going to stick around at Manchester United. Is Harry Maguire? Where's his ambition? You know, is he happy just to stick it out at United this season, pick up his money, sit on the bench, be a bit part player? Or at his age now, is he ready to flee the nest and go and play first team football somewhere? Because if I was Harry Maguire, I would want to be playing football. I want to be playing first team football. And he's good enough to do that. You know, there's other Premier League teams that would welcome a Harry Maguire. Or does he just want to be part of the squad? Don't get me wrong, at the same time, I'm happy for him to be a kind of squad player, because if you have got injuries, he's great to bring in. But at the same time, I'm sure that a club would pay a half-decent fee for a Harry Maguire. And again, this is where that money recoups. Could you possibly take the money from a Harry Maguire and somebody else, and all of a sudden you've got the money together for a Branthwaite, for a Todibo? If you could get easily 20 plus million for Harry Maguire. I'm sure a West Ham, somebody of that stature would, David Moyes is gone, but a West Ham would pay that fee for Harry Maguire. All of a sudden, you've got the money for Todibo. So in theory, it's almost like a straight swap. It's a no-brainer. Like I said earlier, it's like rooting around in the bargain aisle in the centre. You pick it out and you're not putting it back down because it's too good to refuse that deal. But there's going to be loads. Once this merry-go-round starts, we've already seen it with the managers, not necessarily at Manchester United, but when you've seen the way that De Zerbi left, everything is going to... The manager merry-go-round will start. Once the player kind of transfers start to kick in, it is a merry-go-round. It's not the old days of just being able to go out, splash as much cash as you want, and just going full pelt. At this moment in time, the merry-go-round will kick off once players start moving because of these financial restrictions that clubs are now working under. But I'm sure that there'll be loads of news popping up. I'm just going to double check that we have cleared everything. We started with the obviously rumours that Thomas Tuchel has held some kind of... he's been discussed internally. That was coming from Fabrizio Romano. I think we've covered the Southgate kind of thing. It's clear where Kev sits on this one, that I'm just not behind any kind of movement of especially getting rid of Eric Ten Hag for a Gareth Southgate. I'm just not digging that one. What else did we get through? Oh, the Branthwaite one, we've broken the £75 million price tag, and that is expected to be done before the end of June. So hopefully Manchester United would be in for him. Todibo, too good to give up, especially at a £21 million fee. But I would be certainly very, very surprised if a Manchester United or any other club at that fee were not rooting around as well and thinking we will have a bit of that. But sadly, I'm just to double check on the Super Chats, we are all up to date. We have got you covered here all day on the United Stand. You've got afternoon, evening shows, absolutely everything. Sorry about the start. There was a few gremlins in the system, but it's been great to do the 10 a.m. show. I think it's the first time I've ever done it, actually, on the United Stand. I usually get the evening shows. Maybe that's why we had a bit of a shaky start. I should still be in bed, but thank you very much to everybody who joined me. Jims is saying, absolute legend, Kev, that's great to see you. Lots of, hopefully, listen, we will get some kind of news breaking this week, but obviously stick around on the United Stand, because if anything does break, we are your source of information and we will bring it to you. So make sure to finger the like button, subscribe to the United Stand and turn on the notifications, because at this time of year now, it's funny season. It has officially started. We'll have all kinds of transfer speculation. The manager merry-go-round, that will kick in as well. But like I said, we've got you covered here, man. So you don't need to go anywhere else. You know, stay, you know, forget the rest. Stick around with the Georgie best of the fan channels, which is the United Stand. Right, I'm going to sign off very quickly. I'm going to do something very, very strange. You're probably thinking, Rory, if anyone's actually, this is like bring your child to work day, so I'm just going to get him in. Watch that lead there, son, you don't be wiping out a light. Here he is. I've had to bring my son to work today. Here he is, looking to the camera. Hi. Say hi. Don't say anything that Daddy says in front of the telly when he's watching United, yeah? Good lad. Yeah, we've got to do the stadium tour, aren't we, of Old Trafford very shortly, so he's looking forward to it. Fair play to you. Are you going to give us a come on United?
Go on United.
Good lad. You've been watching the biggest Man United fan channel in the land. This was the United Stand. Thanks very much.